Okay, so they are constantly with their phones and they have very, very weird, suspicious phone habits, these narcissists. And so I want to share their secretive behavior, 5 habits that they have when it comes to their phones, so that you can spot this behavior and see what's going on and understand what's happening. And that way you can kind of see it and spot it ahead of time. And your antenna can be going up when you see it. All right. So number one is you'll see that they're extremely secretive. You'll see that they'll never give you access to their phone, and they'll never give you the passcode to it. So when you see this happening, you know, yeah, there's something definitely going on, right? So extremely secretive. They don't give you access to it. They don't give you the passcode to it. You never know what the passcode is. And they may even be changing that passcode constantly to it. So even if you did know it at one point, you don't know it now. So like maybe you saw it over their shoulder at one point. Oh, you saw it was 1825 or whatever it was. And now all of a sudden it's something different because they're extremely secretive about it and they never give you access to it. All right. So that's number one. Remember, I'm going to number 5 here. That's number 1. Number 2 is that they are super glued to those phones. I mean, so glued to those phones. You can never hardly even get near those phones, right? I mean, not only do you not have access to the passcode to them, but they're so glued to those phones. They take those phones with them everywhere. I mean, even into the bathroom when they're going to take a shower. I mean, you don't get near those phones to barely even have a chance to take a look at them anyway. Even if you did know the passcode or the passwords to them, when would you have a chance to even use them? Because those phones are so glued to them. They're almost like a part of their body. So you don't get a chance to go near them anyway, right? I mean, some of them even like sleep with them under their pillows, right? I mean, so you don't get a chance to even go near those phones. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to hide their behavior, to hide what's going on. Maybe it's to hide affairs or to hide who they're talking to or whatever. They turn off their text notifications, so most of the time people will have like text notifications that'll pop up even when there's a lock screen on, so that, you can see what's going on. Like, oh, I see I got a text, right? And you can even read the text even if the phone is locked. They'll turn off those notifications so that that doesn't pop up, so that nobody can read a text if the phone is away from them for some reason, so that no one can see what's going on, so that the texts and things and notifications don't pop up if the phone happens to be locked and away from them. All right. So that's another thing. So they'll turn off the notifications so that the notifications don't appear on the lock screen. And they're super, suspicious with it. They'll grab it right away. They'll act kind of funny with it. When it does happen to pop up, they'll grab it immediately and they won't let you near it. And, they do act suspicious in this way, which is how they end up telling on themselves a lot of times if they are engaging in behavior that they shouldn't. And I do have a whole video on how narcissists tell on themselves, and you definitely may want to check that out if you think that there's something going on. So it's called How Narcissists Tell on Themselves. Definitely check that out. I have a whole video on how they tell on themselves. All right. And so number four is that they're constantly erasing all their history. So even if you do get near their phone, even if you somehow have their passcode, you somehow get near their phone, you somehow get into their phone, all of a sudden you see everything is gone. They have no text history. They have no history in, their search history for their internet. Everything is erased all the time, which is super, I think, suspicious, because everybody usually has, their text messages there or their emails there. You can see their history of their browsing or whatever. Everything's always erased for them. So that's something else that is super weird, super suspicious for narcissists. They delete their logs, they delete all their messages, their browsing history. Everything's always deleted regularly. And that's something else that I find very, very suspicious. If you've seen any of this so far, give me a totally in the comments. If you've seen any of these weird, suspicious behaviors so far, give me a totally in the comments below. And the last one that I've got for you today is that their phone is always on silent mode. It's never where it rings. And sometimes it's not even on vibrate. It's just on silent completely, so that there's like no notification whatsoever. It just, nothing pops up at all. So that if anybody's near them, you just don't even get any kind of a pop-up, or they don't get any kind of a pop-up. So nobody gets to see whatsoever that they're getting any kind of an incoming anything. So those are definitely the ones for sure that I've seen weird, suspicious phone habits of narcissists. There's all kinds of other ones too, where they might have even downloaded apps that they use to communicate, or some of them don't even have any apps on their phones whatsoever. I mean, there's all kinds of other ones, but those are the main 5 that I've seen. All right, let's go through weird things that only narcissists do. Number 1 is they value the opinion of strangers over you. So even if they've known you for years, they know how smart you are. They know all of the wonderful things that you do. They know how much you've accomplished. It doesn't even matter how much you've done for them. It doesn't, whatever. Like if somebody else comes along, they'd rather the opinion of strangers over you. Do you know why? Because narcissistic supply. Of course, they want like other people to think that they're so great or whatever. So it's a form of like flattery for this other person. Oh, I love your opinion, blah, blah, blah. And then the person goes, oh, you're so great. It's like love bombing this other person by pretending like they think their opinion is so great. They don't care about the other person's opinion. It's a love bomb on the other person, just FYI. So that's that. Number 2 is they don't like it when you initiate sex. Very weird, right? Most everybody else wants that. They don't like that. And I have a whole video around narcissists and sex. They don't like it because it's a control thing. They want to control you. They don't like you in their space. They don't like you touching. They don't like you doing things. They don't like intimacy. It's a control thing. So they don't want you doing things like that. So most people, even men, like they like initiation, but not narcissists. It's a very weird thing about narcissists. Don't take it personally. Don't think that there's a rejection thing going on. It's part of an overall thing that's going on. Definitely check out my video on that topic. Number 3, create massive upset around holidays, birthdays, all that stuff. Definitely check out my video on why narcissists ruin holidays. I cannot take other people being excited about things other than them. They get super mad about that. They don't like attention about anything other than themselves. They just can't stand it. So they get agitated, they get upset, they get angry. They really can't stand it. So that's number 3. Number 4, this is another one that's super weird, but it's so true. And if you guys have seen this, I want you to write, I've seen this, or any of these things so far. I want you to write, I've seen this in the comments. They walk in front of you. Like, even if like there's nothing to see ahead of you or whatever, they have to walk in front of you all the time. They walk in front of you, like if you're on vacation or you're going places, they feel like they need to walk a couple of steps ahead of you. Like even if you're not in a fight, like no matter what, they just feel like they need to walk in front of you. It's just a very strange thing. And so you can't like engage in a conversation because they're like ahead of you all the time. So that's number 4. And number 5, this is one of the super creepy things. Super creepy is they look through your stuff when you're not around. They creep around your stuff when you're not there. They hack into your computer even sometimes. For sure they do that. And they look through your things when you're not around. Number 5. Number 6, they mirror you. They have a way of copying you, especially if they're trying to love bomb you. They think that this is like you're going to like them better if they copy you, if they finish your sentences, or they dress like you, they have the same likes, if they have the same dislikes. This is how they kind of got you into their web in the first place, right? That's how they kind of got you hooked in to begin with. So that's one of the other things they do is they mirror you, they copy you. And I do have a video on this too. That's number 6. Super weird, super creepy. So one of those things that you definitely see narcissists doing. The last thing, and this is just one of those things that can be so confusing for you all out there that are in romantic relationships with a narcissist, especially. And I've seen this, especially as an attorney. It's very, very frustrating for me. And that is they push you away and then, they tell you that they're done and then they kind of pull you back. They don't fully let you go. They say, I'm done with you. But it's almost like, that mom that has like a little bit of a shirt left, of their toddler. Like they treat you horribly. And then they turn around and say, but why don't you want to be in a relationship with me? I don't think you love me. What's wrong? They're looking at them like, because you're abusive and horrible. It's like this complete disconnect about how they've behaved, or maybe they think that you're going to forget about it. But that's super weird. So weird things that only narcissists do. Okay. So I've had to deal with narcissists. I know how horrible it can be. And specifically, I actually have had to deal with a couple of covert narcissists. And that is something that you really see a lot of mirroring in, especially with the coverts. I mean, all narcissists, they don't have any sense of self. They don't have any sense of self inside. They don't have any sense of real value inside. They kind of pick up these traits of other people wherever they go. So they kind of are almost like chameleons. And that's why at the beginning, they really seem fabulous. They seem like your soulmate. They seem perfect. And that's because they have this ability to kind of become this carbon copy of you. At the beginning, it seems great. And you think you've found this perfect person. But and then it becomes kind of weird in some ways. And they do use this technique that is very, very manipulative because they've been studying people. The way that they have this chameleon technique, the way they know how to manipulate people so well is because they know how to read people, they study people to become the perfect person. But it's this fake routine. It's this double life that they lead because, inside they're empty. They have nothing going on. Outside is this shell of a person. And by the way, I do have a whole video on why narcissists lead double lives, which you can definitely check out. And so they have this technique that involves mimicking other people's body language, other people's mannerisms and words in order to create an emotional bond with someone. It's their technique of love bombing you in a way. It's their technique of gaining control over you, it's a way for them to eventually manipulate you and continue to be able to manipulate you. They use it over and over again, because even if they start to feel like their control is slipping, once they lose control over you a little bit, you're on to them, you catch them in a lie or something like that, then they need to future fake you, or they need to project or deflect or whatever. It's always this constant game with them. You would think that it would be kind of exhausting for them, but they have to do whatever they need to do. So then they go back to the love bombing, or they go back to the future faking or whatever. It's this constant thing. And so they have to go back to doing these sorts of things. And I wrote this down, that mirroring was this term that was actually coined by Sigmund Freud back in the day, that he used it to describe a way in which people used to their own self-image as a model for how they believed that other people would see them. So, for example, if someone felt like they were attractive, they would often, try to be more attractive around other people by being that way too. So it was like they would mirror how other people were by being the same as the other person, the way the other person was. And I have found that so much with the coverts in my life. There was one particular covert that was in our family. My husband was like always annoyed because this particular person would like finish sentences. And oftentimes it wasn't even the way he would want to finish the sentence. And he would find it really, really annoying. You can find out more about covert passive aggressive narcissists in my video on that topic if you'd like. The other covert narcissist in my life would oftentimes just copy everything that I would do and try to steal my ideas. I mean, a lot of times covert narcissists are sort of inherently lazy. So they would just sort of let you do all the work and try to take your ideas and pass it off as their own. So that happens sometimes too, but that's sort of something else that they do as well. But why they mirror you oftentimes is because they think that it's a way to sort of love bomb you. They think that it's a way to make them look more attractive to you, so that they will eventually be able to manipulate you, a way that they will eventually be able to control you. And interestingly enough, when I would tell people sometimes, some of the coverts in my life would actually copy the way that I dressed, copy the way that I would talk, the way that I would look. And if I would tell people about it, sometimes they would say, "Oh, isn't that flattering?" I mean, it was sort of stalking in a way, sort of a little bit weird. And I would find it not flattering. I would find it really strange. If you think it's super weird, if you agree with me, just give me an agree in the chat. And I would also love to know what some of the ways that you have found that narcissists have mirrored you guys in the chat as well. Put that just in the comments below also. I'm just curious to know. So anyway, that is why narcissists tend to mirror you. And in negotiations, you may see this happening as well, because they're going to continue to do whatever they were doing in the past in negotiations, because they've got their arsenal of tools, and that's what they're going to continue to rely on even in the negotiations. So some of the things that they were doing in the past, you may see them continuing to do in the negotiations too. Yeah, the reason I am on this mission is because I have had to deal with covert narcissists, the subject of today's video. I've had to deal with them in a business setting, one of them in a business setting and one in my extended family. I had never even heard the term covert narcissist before until somebody pointed it out to me. And I remember when we were having this conversation, the person who pointed it out to us pointed it out to my husband and me first. And they were like, "Oh, that person that family member that you're dealing with is a covert narcissist. And I remember I was like, covert narcissist. I never even heard that term before, but I remember thinking, oh, I don't think she's a narcissist. I mean, a narcissist to me was like a boastful, bragging, super egotistical, usually a male. Like to me, it was always a male. I mean, it had never occurred to me, number one, that a narcissist could be a female. And by the way, the person who was calling this person a narcissist happened to be a psychologist. I was like, I don't think she's a narcissist. Pretty sure she's just like really insecure. And he was like, okay, you know what? Let it be a hypothesis. And if I'm wrong, I guess you'll know it. And if I'm right, you'll know it too. The facts and circumstances will bear it out. And of course, he was 100% right. But as time went on and I started to read and learn much more about it, I started to really figure it out. And so, there's so much that goes into a covert narcissist. But, my hypothesis is that I think women do tend to be more the covert kind because women want to be more under the radar. They tend to want to be, they want to look nice. They want to look kind. I mean, but I don't know. I think that there are a lot of male covert narcissists too. They're the ones that nobody suspects. Like the world thinks that they're so fantastic. They're so charismatic. The world thinks they're wonderful. So anyway, here are some strange behaviors of covert narcissists. I mean, number one is that they're super passive aggressive. Their words do not match their actions. So they're like super kind and "Well, absolutely, I will do that for you. Absolutely. I will get right back to you on that. And then you don't hear from them. Or, I definitely want to make sure that you were taken care of. And then they don't. And so you're left like so confused all the time. And do I force them on that? Do I ask them about that? And does this make me a bad person because they're so nice? And then here you are, the one like, am I being passive aggressive? Am I being the one that's a problem? It seems very strange because they seem so nice. So it's kind of a strange behavior because they seem so nice, but it's actually not strange if you get to know who they are as a covert narcissist. So that's number one. Number two is they value the opinions of strangers over family. I mean, and this is something that my husband and I have seen it with the covert narcissist that we've had to deal with in our family situation. This particular person who shall not be named definitely values the opinions of strangers over family. It can be painful unless you realize and just accept that that's who they are, that they are narcissists. And that's what narcissists do. They are seeking that external praise, they're seeking that narcissistic supply. And that's the very strange thing about narcissists. They kind of take for granted the opinions or the supply that they're getting within their inner circle. They don't really care about the supply that they already have. That's just sort of a given. They want the supply that they're getting externally. For some reason, that means more to them than the supply or the validation that they can get from the people who actually love them, from the people who actually care about them or actually value them. They prefer to get it from other people that they don't even know. But that's how it is. It doesn't really make any sense, but that is very strange. And so that's number two. Number three, and I will never really get over number three, to be honest with you. Both of the covert narcissists that I had to deal with did this with me, and I found it very odd, very weird, very super creepy. And that is that they stare at you. I actually did a whole video on this just because I really couldn't stand it. My whole video was called Why the Narcissist is Always Watching You. You know, both of the narcissists I had to deal with, I would find like would be staring at me, watching me. They stalk your social media, they check out what you're doing. You know, I would find that they would like copy me, watch what I was wearing, copy that. And you know, some people would be like who don't understand narcissism, they'd be like, "Oh, but that's so flattering. That's so, you know, that's so nice that they would like want to be like you or something." But no, like those of you who understand narcissism, like you know that it's not flattering. It's like the creepy kind. Actually, recently I had dinner with another couple who happened to let me know that one of the narcissists that I had to deal with that I've completely cut out of my life, not the family member one, but the other one, let me know that there was like some like buddy who was in touch with somebody else that, you know, sort of like this fringe sort of in touch that like there's that like narcissist that's still like trying to poke their head through to try to get through the boundaries that I've created. I mean, very sad, but you know, from my own growth perspective, I was like, you know what? I don't really feel any emotion about it. So it was actually good. It was like a little test for me because when I heard about it, I was like, that is so pathetic. I actually found myself feeling like nothing. So I was glad about that. So that's number three. Number four is they're super weird about gift giving. You know, they kind of like don't really want to give gifts. They like, oh, here you go. And there's like ties against it. They don't really like to give gifts. I do have a video on that too, by the way, if you want to check it out. But you know, narcissists, there's always like strings. They don't like to give gifts, really. There's always something involved with the gifts. So that's number four. Number five is they're chameleons, you know, like they're kind of one way with one group and one way with another group and one way with this person and another way with another person because, you know, they whatever color they are with this person, they might be a different color with a different person because, you know, they don't have a sense of self, right? Because they're a narcissist. So that's number five. Number six. This is actually another little sore spot for me because this is something I had to deal with in my business setting kind of situation. Anyway, they definitely take credit for your ideas. Yep, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Did not like that, but they do that. They definitely like to take credit for your ideas because they don't have any ideas of their own. Yes, because, you know, they are energy vampires. That's part of what they do. They suck the energy out of you. And if you know this to be true, give me an energy vampires in the comments below. Come on, say it with me. Energy vampires. Yes, they are. All right. And number seven, this is another little catchy little tune that the coverts like to play. This is another little strange behavior of theirs, which is they act like they're strong. I'm so strong. I'm so good. But then they also like to play the victim. Very strange, very weird. They want to play like they're strong, they're so good, but then they also, oh, they played me. I can't believe they did that to me. I'm so weak. The whole passive aggressive thing, part of the whole covert thing. I'm so nice, but I'm also, you know, like again, knives under me, you know, so warm over here, but there's ice in my blood. Yes, indeed. So, anyway, those are the seven top strange behaviors of covert narcissists. The one that I personally detest the most because I've had to deal with them. So, if you're dealing with a narcissist, be it a covert narcissist, a grandiose narcissist, or a malignant narcissist, they engage in all kinds of behaviors, even while you are just in a relationship with them. They're gaslighting you, they're lying to you, they're manipulating you, you know, perhaps even being abusive. More than likely they're being abusive. Some are sneakier at it than others. Covert narcissists in particular are very sneaky at it. And so if you are dealing with a covert narcissist, I have several videos on covert narcissists, including why covert narcissists are dangerous and the covert passive aggressive narcissist. And you're going to want to check out those videos for sure if you're dealing with covert narcissists. But whatever kind of narcissist you're dealing with, they are being their narcissist selves the entire time that you're in a relationship with them. So there are three phases to a narcissistic relationship. It's love bombing, devaluing, and discarding. And remember that the phases of the relationship don't actually happen in a linear fashion. They happen at the same time sometimes. They can be devaluing you while they're love bombing you. And in fact, there was a study done by a psychologist with monkeys that showed that if monkeys were given a reward for doing something good every single time, nothing happened in their brain. But if they were only given a reward intermittently, variably, where the monkeys couldn't predict when they were going to get this reward, the dopamine levels in their brain actually rose to the level of someone on cocaine. And that's what happens with a relationship with narcissists. They go back and forth. The narcissists go back and forth between love bombing and devaluing and love bombing and devaluing. And so you are left with almost being addicted to, in a physiological way, to wanting their praise, to wanting that love bomb, because they start out so charming and they really try to set themselves up to be the perfect person for you and hold out all these things that they're going to do for you, or even do things for you right at that time. I mean, if you ever watched the Dirty John miniseries, you recall that guy was just setting himself to be up to be perfect for this successful single businesswoman. He was getting her dry cleaning and making smoothies for her in the morning and all these things at the same time that he was isolating her from her family and turning people against her. So they go through these phases of the relationship. So what happens when you are doing battle with a narcissist is they just become that same person, but on steroids. So it's so much worse. They turn up the heat because, unfortunately, for narcissists, you're either for them or you're against them. They need an endless amount of supply. And if you are cutting off that supply to them, then they just see you as the enemy. And for those of you who watch my videos on a regular basis, you know that I've had to work 2 covert narcissists out of my life, and it was not an easy thing. It wasn't husbands, but it was people that were close to me and close enough to do serious damage and cause lots and lots of trauma. And, I'm telling you that if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. Narcissists have a symbiotic relationship with empaths. And, narcissists see that empaths have the qualities that they want. And empaths, we just think that we can love everybody back to health and, that we have enough love to give. And it just ends up being this black hole. And so they literally, they're often called energy vampires or leeches or parasites or whatever, but they literally suck the life out of you. And it's almost like death by 1,000 cuts. And so when you go to do battle with a narcissist, they're literally turning up the heat because now you're the enemy. Now you no longer have any value for them. So there's no, like, a reasonable person, those of us who are in reasonable land, we think, oh, we can just walk away and wish each other well, and we'll come up with an agreement that's reasonable. And hey, the law provides for certain things, and depending on what kind of battle you're doing with a narcissist. But You can't, that's not how it goes with a narcissist. So if you're getting ready to do battle, or you're in the trenches of doing battle with a narcissist, there are a few things that you can do to beat them at their own game and preserve your own sanity along the way. The first thing is, don't allow them to disrespect you. When you allow them to disrespect you, you're basically giving them permission to do that. And they know how to push your buttons, let me tell you. I mean, especially if you've been in a long-term relationship with this person, they've studied you, they know exactly what your weaknesses are, and so that's where they're going to go. They're going right there to try to make you look as bad as possible. Everything you say or do is going to be turned against you, used against you, twisted, manipulated. So what you're going to have to do is just maintain your own level of dignity, maintain your own level of respect, and demand respect from them. If they are screaming, yelling, trying to talk to you in a way that's overly emotional, and they're not in control, they want you to be out of control too, because they get supply, they get narcissistic supply by seeing you squirm. So by just maintaining that, hey, we're not going to have this conversation, you're not being respectful to me, this is not productive, we'll have this conversation when you can be respectful to me. Same thing if they are lighting you up in text messages or lighting you up in emails, and saying all sorts of disrespectful things. You can just simply respond and say, I disagree with what you're saying. Please do not speak to me that way. It is disrespectful. And then respond to the parts of it that you might have to respond to, like, what time are you picking up the kids, or something like that. But other than that, you're not going to get into the trenches with them and sling that same sort of mud. You're going to demand respect from them, and you're going to condition them that this is how it's going to go. If they want you to interact with them, they're going to have to respect you, and it's going to drive them insane when you do that, believe me. Okay, the next thing that you can do is document, document, document. And we cannot say this enough, those of us who are in this field and professionals in this area. You just never know what's going to end up being your leverage. And when you're dealing with narcissists, you have to have a super strong strategy, and you have to be able to create leverage. And, I often hear people ask me, what is leverage? What does that look like? And leverage can be a smoking gun, like the one thing that for sure the narcissist doesn't want anyone to know. Or it could be something like that the narcissist is more motivated to resolve your differences than you are. Or it can be an accumulation of things. It can be, 15 different text messages that show that they're a liar. And you create an exhibit that shows that. It could be that they didn't show up for picking up the kids on time 20 times in a row, or they changed the schedule every single time that they were supposed to take the kids, or whatever. But it could be any accumulation of those things. And so it's really, really important to do that documentation, even if it seems mundane. Just keep the app open on your phone, the notes app, or there's apps where you can actually pay, to have a documentation feature or whatever. But basically, you just don't really know what's going to be the pattern that you're going to be able to bring out, or what's going to be that leverage. And, for sure, the leverage is always going to be around what is their biggest motivation, which is, the one thing they don't want to come out. It's going to be around their ego, because the thing about narcissists is, they're just always in this mode of self-preservation. They're actually very easy to figure out. And narcissists are the most afraid, most scared little personalities on the planet. They have fragile egos because they have no sense of inner value. All of their value comes from the external. So when you are looking at your documentation and figuring out what your leverage is, you're going to want to think about what is their biggest motivation? What is it that they really don't want brought out? And what is it that's going to make them look bad? Because narcissists do not want to look bad, especially in front of people that they really respect. So if somebody is involved that they really respect, such as a mediator or other lawyers or the judge, especially the judge, they're not going to want to look bad. So document, document, document everything. Okay. You never know when you're going to need it. If this is all sounding really good to you so far and you are so ready to start doing the things that I'm telling you to do, give me an amen in the comments. Okay, the third thing that you can do is figure out what kind of narcissist you're dealing with and understand what behaviors each one engages in. So some of it is similar. All narcissists engage in certain types of behaviors like gaslighting and manipulation, but they do it in subtly different ways depending on the type of narcissist that you're dealing with, whether it's covert, malignant, or grandiose. And you will want to brush up on the different types of narcissists so that you can figure out what kind you're dealing with and then find out what behaviors they engage in. And once you do that, then you will expect it. You're going to go, oh, there's that person being that covert narky self. That's what they do. And you won't take it as personally because you'll just understand that that's the way they act. Okay. So the third thing you can do is figure out what kind of narcissist you're dealing with, brush up on the types of behaviors associated with each narcissist, and then expect them to act like themselves. They don't change. Narcissists do not change. They can pretend like they know, like, I mean, they're very good at pretending. They do know what good behavior looks like. That's how they were able to rope you in the first place. And that's how they parade around the world and get people to think that they're so great. Especially covert narcissists are really, really good at that. But you're going to want to figure out what kind you're dealing with and then not be surprised when they just act like themselves. Okay, the fourth thing is when you are getting ready to ask for something from the narcissist, you're going to want to ask for way more than what you actually want. The narcissist is going to want to feel like they beat you, like they got to you because they get supply from that. Their egos won't allow you to win, at least on paper. So if you are ready to just give them a certain amount, give away a certain amount that you control, that you decide ahead of time, I'm going to be willing to take this much, or I'll be willing to give up this thing. But act like it's like the one thing you definitely don't want to give up. Because if there's something that's super important to you, then that's the one thing that they're going to want to make sure that you don't get. So you're kind of playing a game here, and I call it ethically manipulating the manipulator. But basically, you're going to want to give them certain things that you kind of decide ahead of time that you were willing to give, and then work back to what you actually want. And then when you get there, you have to act like, oh my God, I can't believe I had to give up so much, and this is just awful, and oh, you really took advantage of me and whatever. But you can just go home and smile and pour your champagne or whatever and do it in the privacy of your own home after you've won the things that you wanted. And number 5, the last one is, I take it from like this old commercial, never let them see you sweat, but really you never want to let them see you sweat, cry, get emotional, lose control. Then they get supply from that. If you need to, cry in the bathroom and then come back out, splash water on your face. If you wear makeup and you're a female, whatever, put makeup back on. If you're a guy, just splash water in your face, comb your hair, whatever you need to do to just maintain control
and never let them see that they are getting under your skin, because as soon as they see that, then they know they have you. If you know you're going to have to interact with them, you know, and let's say it's a school meeting or it's a mediation or something like that, don't get there too early, get there on time. Don't give them opportunities to grab you and try to manipulate you, because that's when they'll start to get under your skin again. Remember what I said at the beginning, these narcissists, they know how to push your buttons. So never let them see you sweat. All right.
Now, let's talk about what are the signs that you've actually beat that narcissist. It's not what you think. It's not them laying on the floor, writhing in pain and whatever, because yes, you might see that. Narcissists do sometimes collapse. And if you want to know more about what happens when a narcissist collapses, definitely check out my video on what happens at the collapse of a narcissist. It's quite a sight to see, not the greatest thing to see. But the thing is that it doesn't change who they are, and who they are is a person that needs an endless amount of narcissistic supply. It's sort of like, animals out on the terrain, or, in the Serengeti in Africa. I mean, they're just constantly hunting for food, and their food is narcissistic supply. So they need that. That's their oxygen. That's what they live on. They need an endless amount. You're feeding a black hole. It continues to go into this black hole. You never get anything out of that deposit. But the supply is anything that feeds their ego. I mean, it can be positive things, it can be negative things, but mostly they get supply from devaluing, entitlement, playing the victim, intimidating you, fear tactics. All of that stuff is a way to get themselves an endless amount of narcissistic supply. So when the signs that you've beat the narcissist are that, are not going to be that the narcissist is collapsed on the floor and groveling to you. It just, they can't change their spot. So the signs that you have actually beat the narcissist is, number one, acceptance of who they are, acceptance of what happened, it being okay with it, starting to see them for who they really are. And how do you do that? You start learning as much about narcissism as you possibly can, which is why you're here and why the universe brought you to my videos and to my content and brought you to me and me to you, so that you could learn about that and start accepting them. And don't beat yourself up over it. I mean, don't regret the fact that this person came into your life. People come into your lives for reasons, and a lesson was needed to be learned. And what I say all the time is, if you're in that situation, you just say, okay, God, universe, higher power, whatever it is that you believe in, or even if you don't believe in anything, you just go, what do I need to learn from this situation so I can get out of it and it won't happen to me again? Because if you don't learn the lesson, then, another narcissist is lurking around the corner, coming back into your life, and you won't have recognized the signs. So just learn about it, accept it, understand that it's okay that it happened. I dealt with a couple of narcissists in my own life, and even though I was already a master level skilled negotiator, and I had written books on it, and I had spoken about it, and I was the keynote speaker for the ABA, the American Bar Association, on negotiation, I really hadn't figured out how to put the pieces together of what narcissism is and how to negotiate with narcissists in a way that you can actually get what you want and start making progress on that. If you don't know how to deal with narcissists in a negotiation setting, even if you have the greatest lawyer on the planet, you're still going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars and many years into it and feel like you're nowhere. Because narcissists are not on the same plane that you are when you're dealing with them in a negotiation setting. They are looking to continue to get their narcissistic supply by making your life miserable, and you are going,
well, how do we resolve our issues in a way that's reasonable? What's the law? And, you know, and how can we, you know, make this as fair for each of us and have something that we can both live with so we can walk away and go our separate ways. That's not how it goes with narcissists. So when you can start to accept that and understand that and don't get upset and don't take the bait when they are who they are, that will be a huge way that you actually start to beat that narcissist. The second way that you know that you've beat the narcissist is that when they act the way that they do, you're just observing it, and maybe you actually even think it's funny, you know? So if they come back and they start their gaslighting, they're hoovering, they're doing all the things that they're doing, and you go, okay, there you are, being your narky self, I get it. You know, I've had clients who've called me and say, can you believe he did this? Can you believe she did that? And I say to them, yes, I can. What I can't believe is that you can't believe it. You've been telling me for years now how they act. So when you start to go, oh, I can believe it, you know, actually be surprised if they act like a normal person, you know, but that's when you've really beat the narcissist. When you see they're hoovering, you just start to go, you know what, there they go. And maybe you even can laugh at it sometimes, you know, and you can even start using phrases like, you know, I understand that that's what you think. I understand that that's how you feel. And if you want to know more about phrases to disarm a narcissist, make sure to check out my video on phrases to disarm a narcissist, because there's lots more in there about that. And if you are so ready to beat the narcissist, give me a beat them in the comments. And the third way is that you just don't even miss them. Now at this point, they're out of your lives, and or maybe you're still trying to work them out of your life, but you don't miss them. You're actually glad that they're out of your life. You're actually starting to picture your life without them. You're starting to move on. You're starting to, the air is starting to feel cleaner. The skies are looking bluer. You're starting to feel way better about life in general. I mean, once you aren't under siege like that all the time and you just feel like you're constantly under attack, you'll be surprised at how nice your life starts to feel. And if you're still working on that, definitely check out my video on self-care to cope with narcissists, because I have a whole video on ways that you could actually start to not miss them and start to pivot your brain and start to not have that wiring going on constantly anymore, because it can make you lose sleep. It can make you feel sick. You know, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're thinking about it. You wake up in the morning, you're thinking about it. So you need to come up with ways so that you get to this point, because you really have beat the narcissist when you do not miss them at all, when nothing they can say or do can affect you, and you actually even start to forget things about the narcissist. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she said that she had dealt with a horrible narcissist and got out of the relationship 8 years ago. And she said she was talking to somebody the other day and didn't even remember his name, and she was like, oh wow, that's really awesome. I didn't even remember his name. So how cool would that be if you could get to that point where you just don't even miss them at all? So why am I talking about quantum law and karma and all of these things when I am a lawyer? I'm going to tell you why right now. Because mindset is 50% of winning a negotiation. And intention is a huge part of that. 80% of a negotiation is won before you even walk into the room. Because it comes to your planning and preparation, yes, of course. But it is a huge part of it is your mindset. It is one of the most important parts of it. And mindset also has to do with your thoughts. And your thoughts are energy. And what quantum law says is that whatever energy you're putting out there, that's the energy that you're going to get. Like attracts like. It's just physics. Okay? And so when you are like forming a thought in your mind and you're placing that thought out into the world, you are basically placing an order to the universe. And you're saying to the universe, this is what I want to have happen. This is how I want it to go. So if you say things to the universe like, I'm never going to get that, he or she always gets their way, I can never win, I'm not even going to try to get this particular thing because it's never going to happen. The universe goes, okay, because whatever your little beams of thought are, that energy that you place out into the world, that's what comes back to you. Your thoughts are literally just protons, neutrons, and electrons and ions, all just floating around in your brain. That's all they are. You can't feel them, you can't touch them. As fast as they come into your brain, they can go back out of your brain. Let's just try an experiment right now. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about a white picket fence. Just hold that in your mind. Now let it go. Is it still there? No, it's not. It's gone. And it's the same thing with your thoughts. The only thing is, when you start to have beliefs, that just means that it's a thought that you've thought over and over and over again. And now it's become a belief. And now you just believe that it's true. But it's only because you've been thinking it so many times that it becomes like true to you. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. If you want to know more about power thinking when it comes to narcissists, make sure to check out my video called Power Thinking when it comes to narcissists, because making sure you have a powerful mind is going to be so, so important. So what happens when you're harnessing the power of quantum law is you're basically lining up the power of the universe to say, this is how I want it to go. It's almost like you're setting your GPS. And, you know, if you're driving from Los Angeles to San Diego and you don't know how to get there, you're going to put a thing in your GPS and you're just going to assume that you're going to drive there. At no point do you go, well, maybe I'm going to get there, maybe it's going to happen, maybe not. You know, maybe I'll end up in you know, Oregon or something like that. You don't think that, right? But that's what we do with our thoughts. We go, okay, well, I think I'd like this to happen, but maybe it won't. Maybe I'll end up over here. Maybe I'll end up over there. You can't do that when you are harnessing the power of quantum law, because, you know, the universe of physics is such that it will respond to exactly what you put out there. Like attracts like. That is a physics law. And so your thoughts are going to beam out into the energy, and whatever it is that you put out there is going to come back to you. So the first step in actually beating that narcissist is believing that you can. And not only believing it, but knowing it with every cell of your body that this is how it's going. No matter what, this is the direction that it's going to head. I am going to receive this. I am going to let them know that I am more powerful. They are going to see that they are no longer the more powerful one, that they are no longer the one who's controlling me. I am the one who's in control. I am the one who's in control of my thoughts, my life, my outcomes. And then that's how it ends up going to go. The universe wants to respond to you. It absolutely is at the ready. It's like the soldiers who are just, as soon as you clap, boom, there they are. What would you like? But you have to let them know what it is. Because if you say, I'm never going to win, I shouldn't even bother to try, then that's how it's going to go. And the other thing that's really, really important is that you need to make sure that you are not saying things to the universe that's going to make the universe believe that you're not in control. And by saying things like, I'm a victim, I can never win, or I need a good lawyer, or somebody else has to help me, or I need more money, or all of those kinds of things, you're basically saying to the universe, I don't have it now. I'm not in control. I can't do it. The way things are now, it's not going to happen. And then that's what's going to happen. You've placed that order to the universe. So if you are a winner and you're changing your mindset to be a mindset of a winner, then I want to see I'm a winner in the comments right now. Go ahead, write it. I'm a winner. I want you to start saying that to yourself over and over and over again. That's your mantra. I am a winner. I recently read a book called Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which was really, really great, especially if you're a woman. I don't know, maybe guys would like it too. But it was really a good book. And one of the things that she said was her mantra in that book was, I can do hard things. And, you know, at first I was like, I don't know, I can do hard things. Is that a good mantra? And then I started to like think about it. It was like, okay, now, yeah, if I'm getting ready to do something that maybe feels like a challenge, or maybe I'm afraid of, then, you know, just say to yourself, I can do hard things. And another one that I read one time was a book by Elizabeth Gilbert, and I think the book was Big Love. And we'll make sure we drop links to these books down below if you want to check them out. No obligation, but if you want to check them out, you can. And anyway, in the book Big Love, Elizabeth Gilbert talks about fear. And she talks about how anytime she does something new, she used to say, oh, I have to get rid of fear. I can't have fear come with me no matter what, you know, I've got to figure out a way to like get rid of it. Well, but the truth is that none of us ever completely figure out a way to operate into a new world or a new thing without any fear whatsoever. The courage is doing it in the face of fear, right? Like the cowardly lion in The Wizard of Oz. And so what Elizabeth Gilbert says in that book is that she has learned to go, okay, and like have a conversation with fear and say, all right, fear, we're going on a trip, we're doing this thing, and we're going to get in the car. And, you know, I understand that you're going to have to come along. I would like for you not to come along, but I understand that you're coming along against my wishes. So, okay, fine, fear, you get to come. But you definitely do not get to drive. You have to sit in the back seat. I'm driving. You don't get to drive. You don't get to navigate. You definitely do not even get to touch the radio. You don't get to play the songs. You just have to sit there and shut up while I'm doing this thing and I'm driving. So fear, you're coming, but I'm driving. And I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful analogy. So if you want to use quantum law to beat that narcissist, the thing you have to do is start with your thoughts. Start like pinging into the universe. Remember, like attracts like. So what you ping out pings right back to you. It's like a boomerang. So if you want good things to start coming to you, you better start being very, very aware of the things that you're pinging out into the universe so that the right things start pinging back to you. And that's the way you're going to start the path of beating that narcissist.